We're back.
Hey.
We're back. Wait, I gotta change my frame so that I don't look so tall. Everyone already thinks I'm 80 feet tall, so. What's up? Thanks for coming back. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us again. Today is Friday, June 28th, 2024. It is Groundhog Day, and we are in day 4 of deliberations on the Karen Read trial. And it looks like we may have a hung jury. I don't know. The judge sent them back. They're supposed to come back at 3:30. What say you, my friend? What say you, Mark?
It's certainly a higher possibility than I would have thought in the beginning or even this morning. It's a real thing. I don't know why the judge didn't give him an Allen charge and just kind of give him a pep speech and see how they react. I mean, by not doing that, she sends them back in the same kind of yucky mood they're in, and they sit around. Nothing probably changes. Then they send another note, and then what is she going to do? Say, go home for the weekend and I'll give you the charge on Monday? I think she just created like an extra 3-hour window of nothing where she should have just given them the charge, see how they handle it. And if they come back again saying we can't figure this out, then, at that point.
Yeah, it's like they didn't say the magic words, It's like they didn't say the magic words, and therefore she's not going to do this. Tui Rodriguez, I'm sure, is that what it's called? The Tui Rodriguez charge in Massachusetts, which is a little bit different than an Allen charge.
Yeah.
And I read through it earlier. I don't know if you've seen it, but
No.
I feel like she's got a, she gets an out here in the notes where she can say there's a pre-Tui Rodriguez charge when the jury prematurely suggests it may be at an impasse, but the judge concludes that the jury is not yet deadlocked and that a full Tui Rodriguez charge is not yet called for. But the appeals court recommends that the judge instruct the jury using the ABA recommended language in the first 2 paragraphs of the alternate instruction. So she used like the buzzwords, I think, in her, what she said to the lawyers. It says here, regardless of which instruction is utilized, after the jury has twice engaged in quote, due and thorough deliberation, the judge may not send them out again without their consent. So she did use due and thorough deliberation in her reasoning to the lawyers, right? Like, it doesn't seem to me that they've used, that they've shown due and thorough deliberation.
I don't know. They did say after exhaustive review, which suggests they're kind of, according to them, at some kind of impasse. So I guess you wait for them to come back one more time. Then she's got to give them the real charge. And then after that, you're done. But, I mean, you don't even know how close or not close this is. Are you dealing with one kook, or are you dealing with something that's really split at greater numbers? Obviously, the higher the split, the less likely they are to ever do anything. So
seems to me that there's probably one person in there who's like guilty and they're digging their heels in. That's the way I'm like, there's no way 12 people can say she's guilty. I just don't believe it. There's so much reasonable doubt with regard to even the car accident even happening.
No,
that I couldn't wrap my head around 11 people going the other way.
No, I don't think there's any chance of a conviction, whether it's at this trial or a retrial. But I don't think it's still literally out of the realm of possibility that they could still acquit, but it's less likely than it would have appeared earlier today. But I agree. I mean, to me, it's all about the car accident. I mean, if you can't find beyond a reasonable doubt that she hit him, you could go home now, because that's down the line, not guilty.
Right.
So
can't she make them come in tomorrow?
I mean, you could, but how do you do that when you didn't tell them that in advance and it's summer and the weekend? I mean, it's just kind of, they'll, you'll have a juror uprising, I would imagine. They just wouldn't.
Right.
No, I'm sure they're all pissed.
I mean, I agree.
I think they want to go home today, and they said, all right, we don't agree, so the hell with it. Let's just tell her we're done. And now they're going to most likely have to come back Monday, because even if they send a note, it's already 3:30, right? And they're just starting now again.
Yeah, I have it up here. They're not back yet, but they're coming.
Okay. And what time do they usually quit? like on a
Like
regular?
4.
Okay. So even if they send another note, I mean, if they start deliberating again at 3:30, odds are there isn't going to be another note saying we still don't agree. I mean, it takes longer than 30 minutes. So that they're going to have a salty weekend, come back Monday. Probably you would get another note if this is the way it's going Monday morning saying we still don't agree. Then she'd have to give them the Allen, Tui, whatever you want to call it, the real charge.
Right.
And then presumably if they were to come back later Monday and stay still, then I think you'd be looking at the mistrial on Monday afternoon, if that's how it's going to be.
I mean,
If
to
that's
drag
how it's going to be.
to drag this out for a whole nother weekend just seems to be. Look, we're all exhausted. You've been on trial for 7 weeks on another case, which I
know.
actually saw was picked up by the Daily Mail. So I started to read about your case. I saw an article.
Yeah, it's yeah, no, there's been some press. It's related to another big case. It's a mess, but it'll be over next week. But yeah, this thing has really run its course, and the idea of a mistrial is just going to be, can you imagine?
Yeah, no, I can't imagine because I can't imagine how much time would they have to decide whether or not to try her again.
It's complicated. I mean, the judge can give them as much time or as little as she wants, but I mean, there's no way they're going to just say, okay, see you in a week. I mean, that's just not possible.
Right.
I
Is
mean,
there a time limit? Like you have to file a notice of appeal within 30 days, right? Is there a time limit during which the Commonwealth would have to decide, yes, we're going to retry, or no, we're not going to retry?
I don't know what the Massachusetts policy or
No.
rule is, but I would imagine they'd have to announce within a couple of weeks to a month what they're going to do. And then you'd have to reschedule it. And then, the logistics. I mean, you have, 2 out of 3 lawyers live in California. I mean, that's
Right.
that's bad. You have so many witnesses from all over the place. I mean, the logistics of lining them all up is terrible. And that's if they're going to do it. I'm not so sure they would retry it.
Maybe they could save face and just drop the charges and say, you know what, after further consideration, we've decided we're not going to retry this case. And then,
I mean, I think there's politics involved. I think there's heavy criticism that will be involved towards the DA. I think there's logistical problems. I mean, what do you do with Proctor? Are you really going to call him? Are you going to call Buchanan? Are you going to call some of these other people? I think it's complicated. You could get more federal materials disclosed by the feds who maybe put
right,
out a little more pressure. Of course, the defense is going to have so much, more to work with in terms of sworn statements. I mean, now they're going to have, I mean, think of like a retrial with, another sworn statement of Jennifer McCabe, who went from not telling the police she said anything about hitting him to calling the police back and making a statement that she said, I thought I hit him, to giving state grand jury testimony where she said, I might have hit him, to giving federal grand jury testimony where she said something like 12 times, I might have hit him, to giving state trial testimony where she said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. And
right.
it goes on and on.
Now
Higgins,
this
the
entire trial transcript uses impeachment material in the next proceeding.
Right. And then you have other issues. Again, there are real logistical problems here. There's no question that like someone like Brian Higgins gave testimony inconsistent with what he told the feds. So is he coming back to make another sworn statement and going to explain that? I
I mean,
wouldn't.
he's already looking at potential criminal liability, right?
I mean, if you're crazy enough to retry this case, if you're the DA, what are you doing with Proctor? Not just because he has his problem, but the politics of that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
is he still going to be employed? So you're going to have to hold on to him for another. How do you call him as a witness, knowing that, he's lied about many things and probably done other things? You're still never going to get over the ARCA problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you get all kinds of crazy ideas. Maybe not in front of this judge, but I'll tell you something. If they were in front of a different judge, I'm telling you, they'd be thinking bench trial at this point.
Right. Yeah,
Just,
I
just because of the
agree.
ARCA, stuff. So, might they call other witnesses if they have to do it again? I don't know. Maybe. Might they have called not the plow driver, the tow truck driver? Maybe. Might they have called Berkowitz, if they could find him, maybe. I don't know. It
I
could be
mean, the defense, has had a dry run. So it's like getting a second bite at the apple. They already know everything that the prosecution has. It's not like the prosecution is going to come up with anything new, right? So
no,
they've already tried the case once.
no, I think that prosecution's at their high watermark. The facts that they have can't change. I mean, the people they called gave their testimony. It can't get any better. It can only get worse where, and
New witnesses could start coming forward for the defense that all of a sudden won't be afraid to talk anymore. And they'll be like, you know what? We know what happened. Here's what really happened. Who knows?
Could be. That definitely could be the case. And, if the feds did what they already did, that was their way of saying you shouldn't be doing this. And you just wonder if they have other things that they would now release, assuming they don't think they're giving away whatever it is they're doing or not doing, that could make this even stronger. And then you have the issue of, where is the Sally Port video? I mean, do the feds know? I don't know. And if they do know, is that something that they would now share? I don't know. Now that the video, you found out it was inverted and the defense found out during the trial, maybe with a few months, they have a chance to actually investigate and start asking questions, demanding hearings, all kinds of things, making Brady demands about when did you learn about this and was it disclosed? I mean, there could be any number of problems if the DA wants to do this. I mean, are they going to just have Lally do it alone again?
Aye.
Can you imagine?
I mean, like, I
actually feel
take
bad
this question here.
Yeah.
Peggy says if the feds prove Karen is innocent, will there be no retrial? Thanks, Peggy.
Well, I mean, if they prove it and publish it and show the DA and the defense, yeah, I would say there'd be no retrial. But the question is, what information does the DA know already? I mean, how scandalous is it? I mean, they've known about the ARCA stuff and apparently had no problem going forward with it. And they apparently appear to have at least one juror who maybe finds it impressive that the ARCA witnesses didn't look at the taillight pieces or something. But that you need other jurors to explain how science works, which scientific law kind of trumps 45 pieces of taillight revealing themselves.
Physics is physics. And that leads us to this one. Elisa Jett. Why would the defense let a retired cop on the jury?
Well, if they thought it was a good cop and a good witness, good cops don't like bad cops, and could explain to the jury how investigations work and how we don't use solo cups and how we actually secure crime scenes. We don't send text messages criticizing defendants and bullying medical examiners and planting taillight pieces. And we would have, why didn't they go inside 34 Fairview or at least knock on the door? I assume they would have thought that if this was a good cop, they would be very critical of what happened here. Now, that's still possible. He may not be the problem. On the other hand, if it's, if they misjudged and he's just blue wall and he's like, why are you, not picking on these cops? Although, I mean, how could anyone have any sympathy for Proctor and Buchanan and Tully and those guys?
All of my retired law enforcement friends, and we have so many of them in the chat and as moderators, and Duty Ron and Ed Wallace were on with me this morning. All of my retired law enforcement friends are incensed about this case.
It's insane.
Nobody is more outraged about a dirty cop than a good cop. So if there is one holdout, I don't think it's the retired law enforcement juror, if that's even true. I just don't believe that. So
I would, if it's Judge Cannoni, I guess it changes everything. But if there was some way to get a different judge, I would think really long and hard about a bench trial. Because if you want to put aside all the emotion and all the wackadoo stuff, it is per se reasonable doubt when you saw the defense expert witnesses. I mean, they're unbiased, they're credible. The state has, the Commonwealth, whatever, has no real response to it. And I thought most importantly, they literally said with a straight face, very methodically, I can look at any evidence you want to give me, but if the working hypothesis is backing up at 24 miles an hour and causing the impact, it doesn't compute.
Yeah, so this ain't it.
And I feel like that leads to the next logical thing about the taillight, which is if the taillight could not have shattered in the way that the prosecution claims based on scientific law, well, then how did the taillight get there? And that's a beautiful segue into, well, I have an idea how it got there. And now you're going down the rabbit hole of it got planted. And well, who could have done that? And now that leads to Proctor. And, you know, I don't know. I would have, you know, you don't want a Monday morning quarterback people,
I know.
especially who are really, really good. I don't know why they didn't lead with the ARCA thing and then flow it from that.
Not to mention that 3 of their 4 expert witnesses were unpaid, right? So you had the 2 ARCA guys that were hired by the FBI. They were not paid by the defense. And Dr. Marie Russell, who came in like gratis and was like, I just want to help.
Right.
Like, these are dog bites. It's clear. I don't want to see this woman get railroaded. I'm volunteering my services to fly in from California, by the way, to testify for you. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know what's going on in there. But my gut tells me that it's just one person who's like, she's guilty. I don't like her facial expressions, and that's why she's guilty. And she confessed, like, I hit him, which, by the way, nobody said initially. It's not in any of the initial reports. I mean, they went over at length how, you know, for the first time ever, I think Jen McCabe said it on the stand. It's just mind-blowing.
And you know, they've tried to explain that she may have very well thought she hit him, and it just kind of morphed into whatever it morphed into. But even if she thought that, that to me is similar to the taillight pieces. Her belief that she hit him, if that's what she thought at the time, even if the testimony was credible that she said, I hit him, even if she believed that, that is outweighed by scientific law the same way the taillight fragments are. So
Right.
if the science doesn't permit it, then that would lead, I would think, a reasonable person to believe, well, she said that, she must have thought that, but it turns out she may not have. And
Right. Yeah, because my feeling is you pull up to the place where you last dropped your boyfriend off and he's in the snow. You know, you're not gonna be able to wrap your head around anything else like somebody else did this and beat the bejesus out of him and left him die in the snow. You might be, and who knows what they gaslit her with on the way over there. Like, oh, do you think you hit him? Do you think
right,
he was hit by a snowplow? Do you think, and when you're in that sense of panic and you can't judge someone's trauma response.
no, you know, and I wonder if, you know, part of the problem too is, you know, there was testimony from one of the ARCA guys who he said that, you know, she wouldn't have cracked the taillight by backing into O'Keefe's car. But unless I'm wrong, I thought the hypothesis that he was working with was he's talking about the way the taillight looked as Proctor saw it. In other
Yes.
words, like just shattered beyond
Shattered.
belief.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was ever asked about could it have done it a tiny crack.
Could it have cracked? Right. All right.
Uh-oh.
Here we
You
go.
are unmuted.
God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, everyone.
Thank you, BC, sir. Court session.
All right, so I sent the note in at 3:30 like I've done each day, asking if they want to go home or continue. They indicated that they want to continue until
That's good.
4:15.
Oh,
So we will continue until 4:15.
that
That
means
tells me
that means
something.
they're close, I think,
Court
right?
reporter, thank you.
I don't know if it means they're close, depending on
Okay.
one person, but it tells me it's probably heavily
So see-
weighted
15.
on one side, and what side it would have to be, I think, the not guilty side. If they say we want to work to 4:15, then they want to give it a college try to get the hell out of here and be done. If they
Right.
didn't think they were going to reach a verdict, they would say, the hell with this, see you Monday.
Yeah,
So
that's what I think.
common sense would say if it was like 6-6 or 7-5 and people were very aggressive, that they wouldn't do this. The other thing is they're not asking for evidence.
Hmm.
So they don't need, they're having a philosophical disagreement about what something means. They don't need to hear testimony or see evidence. So it sounds to me that you may be tilting back towards possible verdict here in the next 45 minutes rather
You got
than
time to hang out? All
yeah, no, yeah.
right, let's let this play. I want to see who's in the courtroom. All right, so Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe are over here. Paul and Aaron, Karen Reed's parents. I don't know
You
who
are
else.
muted.
All right.
So that's interesting. So it sounds like, you know, a skewed 11-1, 10-2. It's all speculation, of course. I don't know.
No, totally speculation. But if they think that they can go until 4:50, because usually when they say, when she says, "Do you guys want to go home?" They're like, "Yeah, we want to go." Like if given the opportunity, they would bolt out of there if they did not think that they were coming to some
I
kind
don't
of a
think
consensus.
I agree. I don't think they would want to spend 45 minutes of deliberation that gets nowhere, knowing they have to come back Monday anyway,
Hmm.
unless they thought maybe there's a chance to wrap it up now, which doesn't mean they will. I mean, you may have someone who, you know, that old Norman Rockwell famous painting of like the one woman sitting in the jury room with like 11 men. I mean, it's kind of like I think it's almost like a feminist kind of good picture, but she's sitting there and they're all like hovering over her and she's not changing her mind. I mean, you could have a juror like that, you know, no. And the question is, you hope that if they do, that whatever the juror's ultimate view is or isn't, that they're at least being sincere in it, as opposed to just being a jerk who says, you know, I'm not doing this because whatever. And if they're
Yeah.
being sincere and they just have a sincere disagreement, you can reason with people like that.
Right, which is a good sign.
Yeah.
Mark, were you surprised Jackson didn't mention in his close the text, "Tell them he didn't go in the house"? How could the jury get past all the doubt?
Yeah. I mean, again, you have an hour, so it's hard. And, you know, every lawyer does this after every time. And I just summed up yesterday and you say, why didn't I should have said this instead of that. I mean, did I lose you? I think we lost her.
No, I just wanted you to go on for a second by yourself. So just keep going. I
Um,
took start. Okay, I'll be right
Yeah,
back.
I that's probably worth saying something, but you know, you have I thought an hour was a tough time limit for a case like this, given how long it was. But to me, tell him he didn't go in the house. If you're arguing the third party culprit and you're arguing that he was killed in the house, I think that's probably worth saying. Yes. I don't know if that's the be all end all, but to me, yeah, that's something I would have added in for sure.
It's hard because they only had an hour.
It
You
is
know,
hard.
there were so many things to tie, so many loose ends to tie together, and just 1 hour just it didn't feel to me like enough time. And so many people said, you know, why is Alan Jackson speaking so fast? And it's like because he only has an hour.
It's yeah. I mean, that in some sense, I guess, was an advantage to the DA if you look at it that way.
Mhm.
Of course, on the other hand, when you give an hour, who do you trust to cut to the chase and be more powerful? I mean, obviously, the defense summation was, you know, very good, and I mean, in my view, the prosecution one was just a kind of meandering nothing. But
Just a walk through the wilderness.
you know, I mean, look, for all you know, you could have one person who's literally saying, but there was DNA on the taillight and the guy didn't look at it. And how do I trust his opinion? But then you just get back to, so that's fine. Then go with the Trooper Paul theory. I mean, what are we doing here?
Agreed. Jen says, Mark, do you think the attorneys have talked to the witness that was let go? I think maybe she means the juror.
Not yet. No,
No, they can't talk to him
no,
yet.
no, not after the trial. They can. And I have no doubt that there will be at least one, probably 10 jurors who are going to want to talk or will. Now, actually, let me rephrase that. There's so much crazy around this case. There may be a lot of people who don't, but somebody will. I mean, I think you'll know what the problem is. Somebody's going to tell you what the problem is. It's just the kind of thing that invariably is going to get out either through a juror interview or some kind of leak and end up on some, you know, somebody's Twitter account or something.
Well, it's bad. I told you what they did to Dr. Wolf, right? With Jennifer Coffendorfer put Dr. Wolf's family on docs. She put a picture of him and his wife and children and put up her Facebook account. And like she's supposed to be a professional
She's nothing
expert
but
on
no.
mainstream media, and that was horrifying. I was horrified by that.
Well, I mean, look, she has said things that are just,
Well, she tried. She said I should not have a law license. That I do this for money. That the reason I'm talking about this case is for money. Like, okay.
I mean, when she tries to give analysis about, she doesn't like Jackson. It's interesting. She's very critical of him.
Hmm.
And, you know, he didn't use the TUI material. He had all this material, and you know, she doesn't even understand how it works. I mean, mostly she should just pretty much be ignored is the bottom line.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
apparently there are like 4 people outside the courthouse today with Karen Reed as guilty signs. Did you see that? Somebody sent that to me.
Yeah, I mean, I see
I
they're
mean,
running
they haven't been out there at all. This is the day
no,
34.
and I think they're kind of like the characters that are involved in some of the other dramas involving, from what I understand. I mean, it's just a cartoon. It's they claim it's for John O'Keefe, but it's not.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Mark, if there's a retrial, by then a lot more pro-Karen FBI info has come in. Could Bev say she won't allow it to come in?
Well, it depends. I mean, the rules of evidence control depends what it is. I mean, if it's something like an accident reconstruction expert saying there's no way this happened, I mean, that's coming in. I mean, that's an expert opinion that's exculpatory. If it's stuff where an FBI agent wrote a report saying, I heard from a source that this one said they were told by Brian Albert that this is what happened in the house. I mean, that's not admissible. That's hearsay, but that could lead the defense to discover other evidence. So it really depends on what it is, in what format. But it's not just admissible evidence. It could lead them to other evidence that could break it open. So it depends.
It depends. It depends. Why didn't Bev ask what the numbers were with the jury? 11-1 or 6-6? No, they don't do that.
It's none of her business.
Yep. It's nobody's business. Couldn't she invoke the dynamite law and encourage the minority to rethink their position? Yeah. We talked about that. That would be the Allen charge.
But it wouldn't be just to single out the minority. It's a generic, everyone try to be open-minded, and it's a pep speech. It's not
Go back and give it your best shot. Come on, keep trying, kids. Keep trying.
Yeah, it's just a pep speech. It's not, I mean, they have to be careful with how you couch it, because if it were to lead to a conviction, you can create reversible error. I mean, if there's a holdout, they can't be pressured into saying, oh my God, the judge said I have to deliberate. So I didn't want to, but I wanted to go home. So I said, fine, guilty. I mean, there have been appeals based on improper jury instructions when they can't reach a decision.
Yeah, agreed. If you're just joining, we are covering the Karen Read live verdict watch. The jury came back in at 3:30. The attorneys returned to court, and Judge Cannoni sent the jurors a note asking them if they wanted to go home at 3:30, and they sent back a note saying, no, we would like to deliberate until 4:15. So we're hanging out till 4:15 because
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, because we think that they may come back with the verdict at 4:15, but we don't know.
When you mentioned this, wacky doxing Dr. Wolf's family and all of that, she was claiming that his wife had joined like the Free Karen Read group. Is that true?
Like 48 hours before that. Who knows what's true that she says and what's not true? But somebody pointed out in the comments that they sent me that it was 48 hours before.
Before what?
Before she doxed them. So it was after he had testified, but before she had published it, which I think was yesterday, right? So today's Friday. That would have been yesterday,
real?
Thursday.
In other words, did she really join the group, or is this another one of these internet?
No.
Because if it's real, I mean, if it's after, I don't think it's a big deal. But if there is a retrial, they're going to try to make a stink out of that, to discredit the impossible to discredit type witness by saying, now again, it's after the fact, and he testified when he did his report that I didn't even know what this case was. So the fact that his wife would know that he reached an opinion in which he's basically saying she couldn't have done it, so she, after the fact, supports his findings and joins a group, I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world. But you can be sure that in the DA's world, that'll be, big cross-examination up there with like, how long was your subscription to the Boston Globe kind of stuff.
Right. I mean, we had this in the Maya Kowalski case, the juror number 1, after the verdict came in, it was like a $260 million verdict against Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital in Florida. And after the verdict came in, like the defense theory was literally a defendant, it was a civil case, was pulling their like legal theories right off of Reddit threads. It was crazy. And so somebody on Reddit said, juror number 1's wife was on YouTube in like LawTube chats, like chatting about the case. And so they accused juror number 1 talking to his wife about the case. They hauled him in. It was crazy. Like, people are not going to want to serve on juries anymore if this is what the jurors are going to be subjected to.
No.
We covered this earlier, but you can take it now. Melanie, Mark, what's your opinion on trying this case in Norfolk County? I'll be right back.
I would try to get the hell out of there if you could, as far away from Canton as possible, and anything that might even increase the chance that you get a different judge, just a different culture, a different everything. And also, if you move the case out of Norfolk County, you also level the playing field in terms of, whether it's a home game or a road game. For their lawyers, it's a road game, but for the DA, this is the courthouse they're in every day. They know everything. Make them move 50 miles away and have to either take a crappy commute or live in a hotel and just be somewhat in a different environment. That can factor in, and you're going to get jurors who the farther you get away from Canton, they're going to be less inclined, that people are so worried about the, Albert influence, whether that's real or not. But so I would definitely try to move it out. And the argument would be the attention has gotten 1,000 times more, even since the trial started, and it's on the doorsteps of the courthouse. And although it's a popular case in other counties, they will have heard of it. It's got to be a little bit less, and just try that and see what happens.
Yeah.
I would definitely try to move it.
Yeah, I'm surprised that that it's still there. But I think also that from what I know from the people who live there, and you're from Massachusetts too. People are so outraged just in the state alone about corruption. They say this has been going on for decades and decades, that maybe they thought they would get a jury that understood that and keep it there because they're more personally invested. But after this, if this is a mistrial and they got to go somewhere else, I would agree with you.
I don't know how you're ever going to pick a jury after this if
No.
you had to do it again. I mean, there's so much out there now that all the prospective jurors are watching all of this kind of stuff, all the nonsense that you see going on outside, all the arguing, all the theories, good or bad. I mean, how are you going to find jurors who don't have an opinion? Everyone has an opinion on this thing.
They'll fight you to the death on their opinion.
Exactly.
I thought, truth be told, I thought you had to have chain of custody in order for evidence to be admitted.
Well, I mean, you have to have a logical chain to get it admitted, but mostly that would go to the weight rather than
the jury is the finder of fact. So it's up to the jury to decide whether to disregard, right?
I mean, certainly an argument is if there's a poor chain of custody that it's not reliable and credible, such as, I don't know, the solo cups full of blood and the clothes and all that kind of stuff, and the taillight pieces.
But she has to be guilty because she didn't take her shoes off, says Pastor Prime. Thank you for that. I did a whole rant on Instagram about it. I just cut it out of my video because I was like, really, really, Lally, are you really going to go there? You got 1 hour. You have 1 hour. And you're going to talk about how she definitely killed him because she knew where he was. That's why she didn't take off her shoes.
Isn't that one of the first things you would cut if you have an hour? And especially when you're trying to work in your John Adams quotes before you.
Are you harboring Chloe?
No, that's Winnie the lab.
Winnie, hi Winnie.
No, she's not. She's in the other room. That's like halfway across the house. She's just loud. She may come in.
She wants to be involved. She has an opinion. She's like, I know where Chloe is. Free Chloe.
Yeah.
Hashtag free Chloe.
And half of all the missing canines. I will. Yeah.
JP Dussault. Thank you. If there's a mistrial and the Commonwealth decides to retry, would Judge Bev preside again? Would there be pretrial conferences, evidentiary hearings, etc., or do they fast forward right to jury selection?
Well, the evidentiary hearings and rulings have all been, ruled on. So you don't.
That's res judicata. We say res judicata, the Latin lesson of the day.
Yeah, there's nothing to do unless there's new hearings that are required. Again, like if you get some belated discovery or something from the feds, I mean, there could be new things to address, but you're not going to refile motions to suppress the same evidence and that sort of thing. So
right. But would the same judge keep the case? I mean, she already knows.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, the theory would be whatever you think of her, why would you find a judge who's not familiar with it when there's one who presumably is very familiar with it? So
start from scratch. So even if they change venue, she would go to the new venue.
I think they do. I mean, I've seen it both ways in different places, but I think she would go. And if there's someone from Massachusetts who can correct me on that, feel free. But
Well, remember, this is somebody wrote in my comments earlier. I pinned it to the top of the comments and on the morning stream. Remember, this is Massachusetts, where they've been trying innocent people since 1692 in Salem. So that was a great comment. You guys
Yeah,
keep
there
us.
was. They didn't really have a Miranda and right to counsel at the time. They were dunking women's heads in the waters to acquire confessions and whatnot.
Mhm.
No constitution yet.
Right. Right. Mark, Hannah Tangerine says, Mark, I looked into John, how do you
Chuka.
pronounce Juka,
Chuka.
John Juka's case after hearing you mention it on Young Jerks. Both you and Melanie have inspired me to go back to school. Thank you for all you
Well,
are and do. Such a pleasure.
enjoy. School's fun.
Well, don't hate us later.
Yeah, exactly. Good luck.
Don't blame us later. Did you see the damage that Paul had going 24 miles an hour when he got his DUI in 2020? Now imagine a body hit at that speed. I did not see that. Did you?
I saw a picture of something, but it's interesting because, until you really heard from experts and whatever, I feel like a lot of us thought, well, wait a minute, 24 is not that fast and da, 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 da. And then when you hear these experts, 24 in reverse, I mean, should have just crushed him. I mean, it's
When I'm backing out of my driveway at 5 miles an hour, my car starts beeping like, your sensor is turned off because you're going too fast at 5
Yeah.
miles an hour. Can't
Yeah.
imagine. Thanks, AJ.
It also seems likely it would be loud and all those people in the party. I mean, we've been over this before, but to not hear or see anything, if she's just like slamming it in reverse for that kind of distance and then making that kind of impact, that for nobody to hear that suggests that, that key cycle had to be somewhere else.
The key cycle, that was not date or timed. It was just, or GPS. It was just based on mileage on the vehicle.
I look, to me, there's so much reasonable doubt here for so many different reasons. It's mind boggling, but we'll see. Even today when we thought there was going to be potentially a hung jury, said maybe there's still a decent chance at an acquittal. I don't think there'll ever be a conviction, but I wouldn't assume. And if they're going to work to 415, they're not likely to send a note at 415 and say, we still can't reach a verdict. So they're pretty much either acquitting or coming back without complaining on Monday. It sounds like.
Right. You're right. Mrs. Douglas says it's real. Wolf's wife joined the Free Karen Read Facebook group. She wanted to see all the women drooling over her man. She let them know she was happily married. I could see that. She'd be like, yes, I am Dr. Wolf's wife. And then someone says the Dr. Wolf wife account is a fake account made by a troll. So again, Latina, thank you for the super chat.
Exactly the kind of thing that, this Coffindaffer would, supposed to be a federal trained investigator would just pounce on. And then, she's making these comments like, oh, now we know why this guy had an opinion. It's like, you could not have been an FBI agent if you think that her joining the group, months and months after when he testified, I didn't even know who Karen Read was or what this case was. And I'm just a scientist doing, making cannons and throwing glasses at taillights to see.
Right.
I mean,
I think that's my love language. A man who makes a cannon to shoot a rocks glass out of taillight. I mean, that's pretty cool. You got to admit. Sue wants to know, what do you think of the possibility that the McAlbert Mafia has a juror under their influence? I'm suspicious. I'm usually very pragmatic.
Not high. I mean, I this kind of stuff I don't think is helpful.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I can't, without real evidence, walk around with a tinfoil hat on, assuming that, Brian Albert brought a juror. I mean, look, jokes aside, I mean, I posted a funny picture from Godfather 2 the other day where that's what it felt like.
Right.
And there is that intimidation factor, but like literally buying a juror, it's not so easy. Okay. It's real risky. You go to prison, somebody finds out. I mean, he's not even on trial. Okay. And by the way, he's getting investigated potentially by another agency. So the outcome of this trial isn't going to impact him one way or the other, because if the feds have evidence that Karen Read's innocent and Brian Albert isn't, they're not going to just say, oh, damn, though, they convicted her in the state case, so let's forget it. So I don't even know what they accomplish by risking another charge by buying a juror to do what?
Hold out.
Yeah. guess
to
that would
hold
be
out,
it, but
to just say guilty, 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 and do not give in, do not give in, do not give in. Eric,
yeah.
in a retrial, can the judge change her rulings to disallow or allow evidence different versus rulings she made in the first trial? I think we talked about that
Yeah,
already.
but I mean, why? I mean, she's not going to do that. I mean, if it's the same judge, I guess she could overrule herself. But I mean,
She can recuse herself out of that. Be like,
well,
look,
yeah. Well,
I
that,
just want to avoid the appearance of impropriety here. And even though I don't know the McCabe's and I don't know the Alberts, and then Julie Nagel did not send her brother Ryan a Venmo for me and my husband Frank, even though it says Frank and Beverly in the memo portion, I'm going to avoid the appearance of impropriety and step away from this
I
case.
wouldn't be surprised if a tactic, God forbid, they had to do this again for the defense, would be to file another motion to have her recuse herself and basically add in the same stuff they use, and then cite specific examples of her conduct during the trial. For example, chastising us about the jury verdict sheet when we were right the whole time. How did that sheet get snuck in that was wrong? Why did you lambaste Karen Reed on the live stream in front of the world that ended up on the front page of the Boston Herald the next day? And now the jury's not supposed to see it. But what if one of the court officers leaves a copy of the Boston Herald lying around, whatever, and the jury sees, oh my God, she got yelled at for laughing during, a murder case. So, they could try to use some of those examples in a way to pressure her to step aside. I'm not saying it'll work.
Yeah, I agree. Here is juror guilt. Thanks, Mal 35. Is juror guilt a real thing after voting guilty and then realizing innocence after the case is over? Can anything be done legally then to reverse the ruling?
It's happened in rare situations where, defendants will hire investigators see if jurors are willing to talk. You have to be real careful, obviously. And there are times where jurors will say, like, I want to change my thing, but you can't unless there's something serious. You changing your mind isn't a reason to undo a jury verdict, but if something happened, but in the case that someone posted a note about before, I mean, in that case, client's mother went undercover and found a juror and befriended him, and he said some really crazy things. This is before I got involved. They filed a motion. It was denied, and it was clear juror misconduct. And in the state court, the trial judge wrote a scathing opinion accusing her of doing something wrong when it turned out the juror was terrible. This was on the news years ago. Yeah. I'm not going to get into all the details now, but it takes a lot to, you need some kind of serious misconduct.
Not just suspicion or
Right.
hypothesis or
Right.
conjecture. It needs to be actual misconduct that you can actually prove, not just hearsay.
Not I made a mistake and I regret my vote. It's got to be.
And if we are going to compare this to, The Godfather and the Corleones, who do you nominate as Fredo in this trial? Who's your Fredo?
Who's the Fredo? Maybe Higgins. He's a dope, wasn't he? Of that,
Well, he wouldn't admit that he was being ghosted after,
I mean, I don't know. He just, or actually, maybe Matthew McCabe.
Timu John Travolta.
I mean, he had the misfortune of being the one who got like nailed with the text unexpectedly and just kind of had that grin, and then he didn't really. Actually, no. I just Trooper Paul as the comment. Of course that's free.
Except he's not part of the inner circle. He's not really part of the fam.
No, but he's the guy in the state police that we have a job for you to do. We need you to go to Vegas and, manage the casinos. We need you to write an accident report. Who knows? But I mean, there's probably a lot of Fredos, but of the inner circle, it's probably Higgins.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's not too bright. And he really wanted to know where that relationship with Karen was going.
Yeah.
Where are we going? What's our future?
That was kind of pathetic when he was like, well, I wouldn't say that, it was, what was the whole thing about the difference between romance and sex? And he wouldn't admit that
it's a romantic kiss. And
right.
No, it was a peck.
And he wouldn't say he was being ignored. Meanwhile, like she just cut it off. And then he's like, well, like with 8 questions.
Right.
Like
and then he texts John. We watched a video before from the waterfall where you can kind of see like Higgins in the corner, like giving him the finger and then like challenging him, like, come on out. You come out now. And then it kind of looked like a challenge. I don't know. It wasn't pointed out. Somebody did a really deep dive into that waterfall surveillance video, but it was interesting.
Well, it's interesting because of all the people in the house that they were theorizing who could have been involved. Not that this is what happened, but it sounds like the most evidence of anything was the Higgins jealousy with O'Keefe theory. Did O'Keefe find out, go over there? O'Keefe was very drunk. Higgins, very drunk. Something happened in the bar, presumably. Are you coming over here? Like, we're going to finish this. And, meatheads are going to meathead and something terrible happens. Oh, shit. Pardon my French. Now what do we do?
Right. I mean, if John's blood BAC was 0.28, I mean, like at autopsy, that's like a lot.
Really high. I mean, and that's hours later, days later, even, or whatever it was.
And Higgins left because they didn't have any JMO, really, because he wasn't going to drink beer. Like the whole thing was just
no, he left to go move the cars, wasted,
Mm-hmm.
or do administrative work. And
Thomas wants to know, I guess he means the U.S. Attorney's Office step in and reject a retrial if it were to be a hung jury?
Well, I wouldn't say that they can reject it. If they want to, obliterate the case, they could release whatever findings they have, or if they plan on charging anyone, I mean, they could do it other ways, right? I mean, if they could stop the case if they want to just flex their muscles, I guess, but they can't literally. They have no standing to go and say, Your Honor, we're from the U.S. Attorney's Office and you have to stop this.
Right. We're in charge of you, so we tell you what to do.
But they
Chaos.
Kill it other ways. If they really wanted to nuke the case, they could.
Well, that's what this question goes to. Chaos Coordinator. Will the FBI be able to charge someone else?
If they have evidence of a federal crime, they can charge anyone, but I don't know whether they feel like they have that or whether they want to release it now, because if they arrest certain people, they could be, if there are higher targets, they could be giving it away that they don't want to give something away. It's very complicated.
Yeah. And that's not really what they do generally, right? Is investigating murders, unless it crosses over into federal territory or it's a federal crime.
There's no question that they would be looking into the state police and, the DA, things like that. And, some people believe that this is not the case that led them to investigate, that they already had something going on in Norfolk County. And then they learn about this and say, all right, this is going on again. We have to look into this. So,
yeah, is that what you think too? Because I kind of thought that too. Like this was like something that they stumbled upon, like as a collateral damage, if you will, of what they were really investigating.
It seems
weird. Don't know.
It seems weird that they would just immediately jump into a state murder case, based upon allegations of the cops doing sketchy things. So yes, I don't know this, but it sounds like to me that there would be something else that they were either tipped off, or, not to get all conspiratorial, but if they had wires up and running on something else, whether it be the state police or the DA's office, and they hear something and, they're supposed to, as minimize conversations that they're listening to. But if they start ranting and raving about other crimes, they're not going to, avert their ears to that. And that leads to other things. And I mean, that could be it. I don't know.
Kind of like, do you think Proctor really stopped looking at the phone when he saw some privileged communications between characters?
No chance. No, because, she could have sent the nudes to the lawyer, right, Proctor? So, I can't stop looking.
Yeah. If you've looked at the cesspool of Twitter today, you might believe that.
Wasn't the language when he said, I haven't found any nudes, didn't he say yet?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Meaning like, I'm still working, guys. So,
I need looking for it. Yeah. And like, what was he going to do with them if he found them?
I believe he would have sent them to all his buddies.
Or just like pass them around for fun.
I think just misogynist fun to his buddies and say, check this out. What most cops generally do, right? When they're investigating murder cases.
Well, you would know better than I, because it is your wheelhouse, my friend.
They don't do that.
Miss Carey, is it me or is the Massachusetts law the most confusing? It's not an Allen charge. It's Tui Rodriguez.
Oh, God, they do everything they do there has to be different. And it's that New England stubbornness. I think everything is different.
It's Pilgrims. It's the Pilgrim Mayflower. Ryan and Leslie Bogash, thank you so much for your $20 super sticker. You are greatly appreciated. And somebody says, Mark, True Crime Kangaroo. Hello, True Crime Kangaroo. Give you a shout out this morning. Dee Quinn is the most incredible woman.
D. Quinn, that's inside. D. Quinn is the name that the mother used in her undercover to go with the juror. So she's making reference to the mother. I know who she means.
The case that you were talking about earlier?
Yeah.
Oh,
That
what's
was
the
her
name of
under-
that case in case anybody wants to look it up?
John Juka.
Oh, John Juka. Giu. See, fan is up. Fan is up. Hold on, guys. We have some breaking news.
It could be nothing, but let's see.
Could be nothing. Could be nothing.
Is this where I
So-
turn the chat off because they're going to be like, ahead of us on some other stream and ruin it?
No, you better not. No spoilers, you guys. We are here. Court TV is usually a little, like, few seconds behind. So just take us, relax. Thanks, D24. We do make a great team. I agree. AJ mentioned Higgins' gesture video in closing. Thanks, John. Beat a bot. The attorney general can't step in and take the case over.
They probably can, but I don't know that they would. Is that a
Trevor?
different fan? We're getting a different view of the fan, I think. That's a different fan.
Yeah, maybe it's just a different angle. Maybe the fan had a glow up since last time.
No, I don't remember the smoke detector, but I feel like
I feel like we've intimately spent a lot of time with this fan.
well, there was a lot of fans. Remember in the courtroom, people don't know that there's actually like 5 or
Right.
6.
Yeah, maybe they decided to go with a different one right now. Interesting. 2:30. Living in Norfolk County, I'm terrified that I could be a Karen Reed, and even with glaring evidence for innocence, be framed so easily. That is really scary. Thanks, Jen. Just scheduled my work break for 4:15 at my nursing job. Not guilty, she says. She says, praying.
This could be nothing other than they're, okay, stop deliberating, go home. I mean,
Yeah, we want to go home for the weekend. We thought we could just go till 4:15 because maybe they were going to get donuts or something. We don't know.
it does not mean there's a verdict.
Right. Thank you, Suzanne, for thanking us from Canada. You appreciate us, and we appreciate you right back. BC, thanks for the 5. I was catching up on yesterday, and you are looking for our fake docuseries, Christopher Maloney, to play Yannetti. I think he's perfect. I love Christopher.
That's a good
Christopher
choice. They
Maloney.
look kind of similar. That's not bad.
Yeah, we'd have to put some hair on him, right? Oh, Yannetti's not bald, is he? No.
Not
Christopher
bald.
Maloney definitely is. We could wig him up. It'll be fine. Wig him up. That's what they call it in the biz. Oh, KT24, 26 London. Karen Reed stated at one point, everybody has to be kidding. She's been blamed after John was beat up and pulverized. How wide did she assume or know this? This was played in the trial. Thanks, Melanie and Mark.
I think we learned that they had some kind of source who told them, I know what happened, right? I mean,
His name was Scanlon, I think.
Right.
Steve
And then
Scanlon, I want to say.
it just never went anywhere in terms of trial value, whether it's hearsay, fear, who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. We're at 12,999 people in the chat with only 2,500 likes. So let's get the likes up, eh? The next person to join is going to be the 13,000 person in this stream. That'll be a record, I think, for this case, for us. Hit the like button. We promise you that Proctor won't get your DNA. Neither will the Massachusetts
I
Police or
don't know. Now
Canton.
you're writing checks you can't cash. Are you sure about that?
That's right. Well, I mean, if you put your DNA on the like button on your phone, well, you're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. John says party invite equals search warrant, probable cause for the house. I don't know about that.
I got to tell you, though, they knew John O'Keefe. Everybody says, well, why would they put him on the front lawn? Wouldn't they be smarter? And I think they're ignoring the part that many, many people knew that John O'Keefe was going to the house, and they knew that Karen Reed dropped them off. And if he turned up dead somewhere else, it would make no sense. And here you go.
And here we are. The volume is on. It's not. Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe.
It's a tense look in there, more than usual. This is going to be. This feels like. No, here it is. See you Monday.
We'll see you Monday morning at 9 o'clock. To the extent that you can, please just not think about this case this weekend. Clear your heads. We'll start fresh on Monday. So please follow those instructions. Do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about the case, please disregard it. We'll see you Monday. Thank you.
All rise for the court, please. Jurors, follow me.
So we are coming back Monday. Jury's going home for the day. We're coming back Monday. Let's get a look at some of these facial expressions of Paul O'Keefe and the team.
Nobody looks happy, but that's at this point, you're at that level where
Exhaustion has just set in, and now they have to live with
Thank you.
this
Be
for
seated. Court's still
a
in
whole
session.
other weekend.
All right, we'll see you Monday morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I mean, if she's going to give that Tui Rodriguez instruction, wouldn't now be the time?
she should have done it earlier. And then they deliberate now. They don't reach a verdict, but they're working and they come back Monday. And now you're in a situation where they come back Monday. Obviously, they didn't solve their problem in the 45 minutes, whatever. They try again for however long it is. They're like, the hell with it. Somebody won't change their mind. Then they have to go back and write another note, get the charge, go back. I mean, she basically wasted the whole afternoon by not, in my view, and not giving the strong charge. I mean, it's 4 days, and she's trying to rationalize it by saying, well, they only did a half a day this day and they left early that day. So in really, it's only, I mean, they've been deliberating 20 hours and they
Right.
told me, we've done an exhaustive review. She should have said, give them the charge. But now she set up this procedure where it's going to take another couple hours to dot the I's and cross the T's before she gets to mistrial level. And it's just going to drive these people nuts.
I agree. I think it's been enough. Dewey says that David Tennant should play you in the movie that we're casting, our fake casting.
Tennant. Do I know who that is?
No, I'm going to have to look him up too. Gringa, thanks for our collaboration is amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Turtle Boy took a pic with the OG fan. It's in with the prosecution. I don't know what that is.
A witness protection, I think he meant.
Oh, it's in witness protection. The fan is in witness protection. Oh, got it.
Got it.
Wow. Sarah Boone is going pro se, apparently. Oh, joy. Oh, that'll be interesting. You know about that case? She put her boyfriend in a suitcase and he was screaming to get out and he died in the suitcase. Yeah, it's big.
Where's that?
I don't even know where that is. It's
Is she a
bizarre.
psycho that's had like 50 lawyers or something?
Yeah, now she's going to go pro se, right?
I
ahead.
had a client who was charged with pretty bad murder in upstate New York and ultimately went pro se. And so we were sitting there as the legal advisors for the trial. That was interesting.
Oh, wow.
In the fall. Yeah. That was
That is interesting.
an interesting experience. Yeah.
Hudson says he thinks the FBI is involved because of the crossover with Sandra Birchmore.
Could be.
Could be.
It's a lot of the same people, right?
Mm-hmm. CB, from my background picking as stenographers, juror picking for a person shows respect from all versus a random court pick. Well, in New York, it's juror number one always, right? So
Yep.
every jurisdiction is different. My two favorite trial watchers. Thanks, Paula.
Thank you.
In my opinion, how long until Anti-Bev retires? Have mercy.
Well, if there's a mistrial, hopefully before the second trial, if there's a second trial.
Right? I don't know. I mean, she's not really at retirement age, so I don't know. I don't know how much more we can.
She gets tired and likes to leave early, so maybe she's, I don't know. It would be tough to stomach another long trial with.
Yeah, it sure would.
Kate's place. Yeah.
I'm exhausted, man, and I'm not even the one trying the case. My husband doesn't usually follow the true crime into with this case. He can see she was set up and he's an easy target. Hi, Mark and Melly. Hi, boys, Max, boys, Ma 2 times. Thank you very much.
I just can't get, if this is a hung jury, which I'm not sure it will be, but I can't get this idea out of my head that if you mention the ARCA stuff as the lead in to establish that means the taillight could not have fragmented that way and could not be there naturally. That means someone had to plant it. I feel like that would put this framing argument in scientific context rather than, oh, you conspiracy weirdos. It would be almost, it has to be by scientific law. It's like not just because we say so. And I have this like gnawing thing. I wonder if that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Well,
it may not matter because they still may do the right thing, but somebody up there is driving them crazy.
Coming back on Monday, that's for sure. Maybe they'll all think about it over the weekend and
yeah,
You know, come to whoever, who knows? I mean, it's so you can never second guess what a jury's doing. It's like
Yeah.
just talking about it is just like we might as well. It's you could flip a coin and you have no idea. Nina, bet the jurors just needed a few minutes to fill out the verdict form, comb their hair, and put lipstick on. Well, nope, because they didn't. They're going coming back in Monday. Thanks, Melanie and Mark. I feel like I'd be running to the ER with a panic attack without you both in the camaraderie of the chat. Thanks, Laurier Weeks.
How do you think the people involved in this feel? My God.
Right. Let's take a
You
look and see what's happening outside the courthouse right now.
Oh boy.
We have Tom CPU is out there. I mean, the media that has descended upon this town.
Yeah, it's
It's wild. Guys, go subscribe to Tom CPU. Out there
Alan,
every
Sharon,
day.
how are you feeling today?
Aaron, what's your message?
Aaron, how are you feeling right now?
Well, they're going a different way. They're making a right.
I mean, you can see the tension. I mean, the body language is different. They're not talking anymore. I mean, it's understandable. I mean, I'm sure they just want to get the hell out of there, go eat dinner and relax. I mean, this is got to be just physically and mentally taxing.
The parents who are there every single day, exhausting.
Unbelievable.
They're going a different way. They're making a right down the steps instead of a left. So I guess they have them somewhere else. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Well, I got a lot of people to thank. So in a new trial, can the Commonwealth change its theory? It says Sean. I mean, they've changed their timeline. They've changed just about everything about this case.
Yeah. I mean, they're kind of stuck with the theory by like what they indicted. I mean, they can't make it a non-car accident. I mean, but could they tailor their case and kind of change some of it? Yeah, but they can't like literally try her under a theory of, punching him and falling down and banging his head kind of thing.
Right. So they have to stick with what they have, but they've changed their timeline, and that made me crazy. I find it so scary, says Maya, that even one person thinks Lally proved second-degree murder. I'm scared that anyone believes he proved any part of his case.
It's nothing, because if you can't prove a car accident beyond a reasonable doubt, there's no provable crime from what they've charged. So to me, there's somebody does not believe the science, which is crazy.
And it's so obvious to us because we know every single thing about this case, and they're just getting all of this, and they've only been there for 4 days. When you think about how much they have to digest, Sullivan says, I was on a jury in the same Dedham courthouse a year ago, and we had to vote on a four-person, and our verdict slip said not guilty or guilty on it. That's interesting. That they voted on a four-person, and here she's the one, the judge selected it, and we just thought that's the way it is in Massachusetts.
Who knows? I mean, I guess at this point, if they're fighting over the car accident, if they are, there's been no request for any of that testimony, which is fascinating to me. I would think if somebody was struggling with the car accident and the science, that one of the jurors who's in favor of not guilty on the science would say, I'll tell you what, why don't we ask to help you read back on the ARCA guys and just listen to it, and then, let us know what you think. And I think that would do it.
Yeah. And this ties into this question here. Tangy Joe says, what in the FBI investigation would trigger them to hire accident reconstructionists for this event?
Presumably because they were presented with a serious claim that she was allegedly framed and that taillight was planted and she's not guilty. And certainly if you're investigating the police and others in this case with a new eye, I mean, if you're the FBI, don't you want to know, well, did this happen or not? I mean, they go in agnostic, right? I don't know. Let's just see what comes out. And of course, if it comes out as a car accident causing the damage, I assume they're a hell of a lot less interested in all of this than when they find out, yeah, that's really interesting that it's not a car accident. Because to me, again, well, then how does the taillight get there? And why is the testimony that Proctor said about the taillight different than the other cop? Why is the Sally Port video? All of a sudden, in the context of the ARCA thing, it doesn't sound far-fetched at all.
Right. And like people who first started looking at it, they just thought it was a car accident. She hit him. It was an accident. But, that's when they told the media that there was ring footage of the actual incident, and it turned out there wasn't. So Mark Shepard as Bederow, my favorite shifty lawyer. I don't know Mark Shepard either.
I'm not sure
We're
what shifty,
casting, they're casting you in our fake miniseries.
shifty means in that context. Okay.
Must be a very contentious atmosphere to be going into the week of the 4th, says RRB girl. Thanks for your super chat.
This is going to end Monday, I think, either way. I mean, it's, I
Yeah, the
can't,
slow roll into Monday. I mean, if they come back at lunch with a note, another note that they can't reach a decision, she's going to have to give them that Tui Rodriguez charge, and then it's going to have to end by the end of the day, don't you think?
yep. I do.
Is it too late to sequester the jurors?
Yep.
It is now. It's like at the beginning or never, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, once that ship sailed, you can't tell them we're going to lock you up in some hotel in Needham or whatever. Yeah, I don't think so.
Right. Also, we got all the evidence, says Sullivan 14, so it's confusing why they couldn't deliberate with any evidence. Well, they did get a lot of evidence to take back. What did she say? Something like 600 and something exhibits?
Yep. And
657 exhibits. But that cert report that they asked for was not admitted into evidence, so they didn't get it.
No,
Or it didn't exist.
By the way, that's the only evidence they've asked for, right? Is the
Right.
cert report.
Mhm.
And that relates directly to the taillight fragments. The issue here is why not compare? Why not have that guy's? Was O'Hara? Was that his name?
Yeah,
That-
Kevin O'Hara.
I mean, if they're fighting over this, I don't know why they wouldn't say, let's get O'Hara's testimony. Let's get the ARCA testimony. Let's get the pictures of the taillight fragments, put it all together. And again, the cross-examination of the ARCA guys is really interesting because it's actually stronger for the prosecution than the direct when they basically said, I didn't see any of that evidence, but okay. And does that change your opinion? Not in the least. Why not? Because if you need 7,000 pounds of force, whatever the math of this, that, whatever, can't do this, can't fracture the taillight like that.
I mean, I'm assuming they can ask for a read back, right? But do they know that they can ask for a read back?
I mean, I didn't see her instructions to the jury, but I've never seen a judge not instruct a jury before they deliberate to say, if you want anything read back, write a note to your foreperson. And the way they would say it in New York, I imagine it's the same. You have to tell us which witness, and the judge would even say, you need to tell us whether it's direct, cross, or both.
Right.
Or if it's testimony related to a certain thing, at which point you'd have to call the court reporter back, and it can take a long time to like isolate it, and then you have to have both parties agree. Is that the correct? I mean, it's a real pain, but it's interesting that for a jury who says we're ready to quit and we're still trying, that they really only asked one question about the evidence.
And that's all they wanted was that report. And I wonder why they wanted that extra 45 minutes, says Jadzia. Who knows? Maybe they thought they were getting close.
I'm total speculation. It could be totally wrong. I would assume they thought there was a chance, which would suggest that the break off is maybe very slanted as opposed to closer in the middle, which, I mean, on a Friday afternoon, on a nice sunny day, if it's not going to get resolved and
really
there's no
nice out today.
chance, wouldn't they just say, let me get out of here?
You would think. It's a beautiful day today here anyway. Could
That's
Higgins tossing
nice.
his phone at the military base triggered the Fed involvement? I think they were involved before that.
Yeah, I don't think it would trigger it. I think it'd be a big point of it that they question him about it, but I don't
Yeah.
think that's what started it.
Thanks, Kristen. All right. Let's see. Mark and Melanie, got one more for you. What are the odds our holdout just wants to be contrarian or force the others to convince them or does not want to go back to work?
I don't know. I mean, you hope that they're doing it with a sincere belief that is based in reason. The problem I'm struggling with that is you have to be a science denier because here's the weird thing, okay? It's all burden of proof. You don't have to believe the science to the extent that has to be. In other words, it could not have been the way they said it. It had to be a car accident. But certainly there has to be reasonable doubt as to whether the car could have caused the impact, caused the damage to the car and the human being.
Right.
You don't have to prove it, but doesn't that at least give you a reasonable doubt that the DA's theory about the car accident is wrong? This is as open and shut a reasonable doubt analysis on one fact as I think I could ever recall.
Same. And that's why we're so flabbergasted that it's taking this long, because to us, it's just so damn obvious. Thank you, on top. Amy in Boston says, power panel. Love to you both. Thanks, Amy. Alan never entered the house this AM, said Auntie Bev's verdict for him.
Sure didn't.
Sure didn't. Would a hung jury or mistrial leave Karen Reed more vulnerable to a civil suit by the O'Keefe family?
No.
They can file a civil suit if she's found not guilty, if they want to. Right? So
Yeah, I don't think it matters. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't. Jamie, Melanie, you're a lady. I don't even know what that says.
I don't even know what that is. Wow.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look it up. RE fans out here. Case is so obvious. I think the jury stinks. Same trial, same judge. No, thank you. We went through this one. Tanny, I wish Lucky hadn't respected the Alberts so much that he didn't call the police to have them move that Ford Edge. May have made all the difference.
What can he do?
John, invited to 34 Fairview party, probable cause. Look, we looked at that. The defense expert made all the other testimony moot for me. Same. Simi from the bus stop, State Trooper Bruce Springsteen live version for the playlist. Thank you, Sussex Sandra. The disturbing thing is it could be leaning guilty.
That's really
don't see
hard
it.
to believe. I'm not just being naive. I don't know
Right.
how you could possibly have a majority of people who are science denying. Okay, Winnie.
Chloe,
Yeah, well, now
you gotta go let the dog out.
No,
Let the
they're
dog
just
out.
no, because dogs bark when they hear noises outside, except for Chloe.
Or when someone comes bursting into your bedroom at 6 a.m. That redhead, to hold out for guilty is to violate the law and the Constitution requiring proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The holdout juror is being unreasonable. I believe. I agree.
There's a lot of reasonable doubt here.
So much. You can drive Franken truck right through it. I mean, is it possible that they're not asking for evidence because the one time they asked, they were told they had already received all the evidence?
I mean, I would think that they would be intelligent enough to say, we really would like to, hear this or see that. And then the worst thing could happen is the judge could just tell them no.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'd like to think that they can figure out that they're allowed to ask for evidence.
RNCGSU, there is as much testified evidence by medical witnesses he was shot or hit by a car. Well, I think
I
he
don't
was
know.
shot.
I would use the shot example, but
Right.
but the point's a good one in that I don't even think they've proven beyond a reasonable doubt that his death is a homicide, not just because the ME couldn't classify it, but where is there any credible proof of what happened to him, whether he did slip and fall on his own or whether a car or whether a push. There's no evidence of anything, credible evidence.
Right.
Anyway.
He could have, what if he slipped and fell and smacked his head on the fire hydrant? Like that could have happened, but it didn't necessarily happen. It wasn't necessarily inflicted on him by someone in the house, but there's a million other things that it could be, but it's definitely not Karen Reed hitting John with her car, in my opinion.
I don't know. Maybe, they could have said something like, when you talk about credible evidence and just, allegations, in light of the ARCA guys, the claim that the car hit him, it's not credible evidence. It's disproven essentially, or at least appears to be on a reasonable doubt standard. So
Sphere, they'd need time to fill out the verdict form. Nope, apparently not. Martin Rich, Karen is innocent 100%, 1,000%. Thank you.
That's
Peapod Ferry. I think limiting the closings to 1 hour was a huge problem. Counsel sacrificed explaining the counts and walking the jury through the verdict.
Those are short summations for a case like that. There's no question.
An eclectic mind thinks this jury's going to need therapy once they find out how much left out. D-Flash, Turtle Boy did a live an hour ago or so ago and said he thinks the holdout is juror number 7, a 30-ish woman who looked upset when they came in. She could be upset because they're still going to be there over the weekend. We can't really speculate why someone would be upset. Christy became a member. Welcome. And Lisa M. Welcome. Nico, it's probably a fake account. Easy to do. Talking about Dr. Wolf's wife. By the way, love you guys learning so much. We're here to help, right? Right, Mark?
Yeah.
Trolls are making fake pics of Karen and Jackson. We heard about that, but I didn't have time to investigate. Carlene, thanks for becoming a member. Jessica sent you a link through the matcha link of the Canton Select meeting. 3 minutes. The green shirts are for Lucky. Must play. I will play that at some point later. I don't know what that is. Thunder Road Queen, admire both of you. Love from Augusta, Kansas. Love to Augusta, Kansas. Josh Frost, there's a reason the Commonwealth removed the audio from the test video. That V8 roaring to 24 miles an hour and 62 feet, if even possible, in reverse, would be very loud.
Is it a
There you go.
V8? Is her car an 8-cylinder engine? I mean, that would be louder.
Perhaps Joshua knows more than we.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and of
Do
course
we
they would have
a,
heard it.
Is there a Mona Lisa Vito amongst the crowd who can like explain how that works?
Sweet Caroline. OMG, Melanie, pulling my hair out here. Sorry, babe. Asget Industries on YouTube proved AJ's key cycles on her CGI channel, along with the CGI of Trooper Paul's data points. Yep, those videos are great. Go watch them. I'm not going to play them because I don't have her consent, but she made some way better videos than the guy who lives in his mother's yellow attic. Bradford, thank you for the 10. Aiden posted that Juror 7's cheeks were red and flushed and looked like she may have been crying.
It can
Confirm
get
or
tense.
deny.
I mean, if she's one holdout and getting beat up on by 11 people,
Could be.
you know, and there are times where it'll get frustrating, and you know, things could be said that shouldn't be said, and
Yeah.
it's possible.
And people want to stand their ground. Thanks, Melissa, for the super sticker. You can slap lipstick on a pig. They're still grow up pigs. Thanks, Kimmy from Canada.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And all the half days, etc. All the delays have been due to the judge and her incompetence to perform her job duties, says Melissa. Suzanne, Southern New Hampshire, following this case closely. I'm getting texts constantly. Thanks for the best coverage on this case, Melanie and Mark. We're here for it, and we're not afraid to say it. C. Morales, so happy to be part of this community. Thank you for letting us yell into a closet. Siobhan, thanks for the 5.
Isn't it tempting to go down there again Monday and see the craziness?
Not in this craziness. Well, you want to drive?
Huh?
You want to drive? Pick me up on the way? I don't know. We could take the ferry. Oh, do you want to have your picture taken again?
Not like that, no.
The guy who plays Auntie Deb, do you know Auntie Deb on YouTube does those videos where he plays the court reporter with like a CPAP and he plays all the characters. He came on my show the other day to entertain while we were doing Verdict Watch. His name is Jimmy. He's like the greatest guy. So nice. He's a math teacher and he lost his job. So he just started making these videos. I'm like, you must be a comedian. He's like, well, not really, but I guess I kind of am now. He went to the courthouse one day and people recognized him. He was like, he was like, I had to leave. I couldn't believe that people, first of all, recognized me outside of the Andy Bev wig and wanted to take pictures with me. And, you know, we had that at a very low level when we were there because there was not as 3,000. There certainly weren't thousands of people there when we were there, but
it's much crazier now. Not that there was not a lot of people, but this not like this.
Siobhan, the feds may have been checking into Sandra Birchmore. Yep, Canton police investigated that. Agreed. When I texted my husband, says pure, no verdict yet. He said that's ridiculous. So cut and dry, duh. As does every one of my friends who's following this.
Yeah.
Wayne, jury is slow rolling this for the book show movie deal. Quick verdict, and they're not a big part. Lengthy one, and they get a chapter or two. Interesting point. Catherine, Canton police chief is being sued for hitting someone in the crosswalk with their SUV. Not surprising because she did do it. The guy had like 9 surgeries, so it's a good case. Kristen, thank you for your super sticker. One juror is upset. Could the majority be voting guilty? They should have sequestered the jury. Well, she could be upset either way. There could be one, maybe the majority is voting not guilty and one says guilty. I mean, we don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, in my mind, it would, I can't even see ever a guilty verdict. RB girl, I'd be furious as a juror to discover all the info provided by the FBI after deliberations. Yep.
Yeah.
Because the jury asked who hired the ARCA experts. They don't know it was the FBI. The holdout may think a biased party hired them. I wish they knew.
They know it's the FBI. I mean, the way it couldn't be more obvious, the way it was phrased without literally saying the FBI. I mean, he was very good at making that clear and that both sides had access and they didn't call him. We did.
And Ryan Nagel mentioned the feds and somebody else mentioned the feds. And Sandy B's idea is that the CERT report to prove the fix was in from the start. That's why they wanted it. Could be. Any vote other than not guilty at this point, Melissa says, defies all statistics. The holdout has to be a plant. If it's a plant, I mean, maybe they're afraid, you know, I mean, or maybe they really don't understand science.
When I was a first year Manhattan DA a long time ago, and you took, you know, trial advocacy training from very experienced, you know, homicide lawyers and those types. And there was one guy who, I'm not going to mention his name, but some of the people listening who know the old dinosaurs from the DA's office, the NYPD, you might know who I'm talking about.
Morgenthau? No, who are
No. I'm talking, no, Morgenthau. He was, even when I started, he was already like 90. No,
Well, you said dinosaur.
Well, I meant
You did
like
say dinosaur.
I did say dinosaur, but so when they had these trainings on like jury selection, and his whole thing was that there are only two goals during jury selection when you pick a jury: brainwash, okay, and get rid of the kooks.
Mhm.
And everything else flows from that: brainwash and get rid of the kooks. And the concern, I don't know if this person's a kook or not, but if you can't accept the science in this case with the way the evidence is described to you by the people it was, and juxtapose that against, the state's wonderful expert and his pirouetting magic taillight and bouncing off the curb 20 feet into the lawn kind of thing.
Oh man.
It just got there. It just did. And the crime scene told me this and all that kind of stuff. It's
The
possible.
crime scene spoke to me. Remember they ran criminal checks on all the jurors and it took like an extra day after jury selection. Is that something that is commonly done in other jurisdictions?
Running criminal checks on jurors?
They did that in this case. Do you remember? I remember.
No, I don't think that's
They did it.
all common.
They had a name for it, and I can't remember what it was called. And I'm not sure if it was just for felonies but they had to do a whole check on them. So, I mean, if it leaks out who these people are, somebody could reach them to try and, knock on the door and be like, you better go this way or else something bad's going to happen. I mean, look, Brian Albert sitting there during closing arguments was intimidating to me, and I'm sitting at home in my chair,
It was weird, and especially Colin Albert, because he had no connection to John O'Keefe. That was so contrived. It was. I mean, it's a free country; they can go. It's just weird.
Nancy
And
says,
I don't think that's why a juror is not voting, because I got the Brian Albert.
No, yeah. Nancy says she's already spent over $1 million. Prayers sent. Chastity, Paul was nodding at a juror at the end. That's odd. I don't know. Shane, seems like a bad abuse of our judicial system embarrassment. Can the governor of Massachusetts stop the trial or pardon Karen before verdict, or if a mistrial?
I mean, politically, why would she do that? I mean, you let the process play out.
Tracy, no picture of taillight before loaded on tow truck. I'm done. Thanks, Tracy. Agreed. Scott, holdouts are probably using the accident experts' lack of Commonwealth reports as a hitch to disregard science.
It's a strange way to reason.
Oh, because they didn't give him certain things to look at for his. I don't know. That would be weird, though.
It doesn't change the mathematical.
That's what he said. I didn't need. It wouldn't change my opinion. Even if I had that stuff, it wouldn't make any difference in my conclusions.
It was all about, and if I'm butchering the science, somebody will tell me, but it was all about like the degrees of force needed to mash something, and that it didn't compute. Literally, scientifically, it just couldn't be, according to them.
Yeah. Denise from Alabama says that it's even from far away, the holdup is perplexing. Thanks, Denise. Gigi of 3, can Bev give the reading on Monday morning? No, I think
they're working. They haven't said we're stopped, so she can't do it until they ask for it.
They have to ask for it, but they don't know that they have to ask for it. I think they think the next time they send a note out saying we're done, that they're actually going to be done, when in fact, that's the trigger for her to then finally give the instruction that we think she should have given this afternoon at lunch.
Yeah.
Yep. Lady, sorry if this is a stupid question. What happens if it's a hung jury? Can they use the evidence they have plus some in the next trial? I don't know how it works. We've covered that.
I mean, they can change strategy a little and cut witnesses, add witnesses. I mean, I'm sure the defense would maybe add a few and do things a few differently if it comes to that, but I'm still not sure it's going to come to that. We don't know.
Culty Clips thinks that sadly we have a lot of science deniers in the U.S. Kathy, do you think jury instructions were confusing with so much verbiage about alcohol?
Yes, but again,
no, you have to say yes.
Yes, but it's it's about a car accident. I mean, that's what you don't have to think about any of the other stuff until you satisfy yourself or not that there's a car accident.
I kind of feel like that should have been the first question on the verdict sheet, which they call a verdict slip, which confuses me because it's like a jury slip is what you get. Like the verdict sheet should have said, do you find that Officer O'Keefe was hit by Karen Reed's car? Like that would have been a very easy way for them to get to the next question.
They don't do that stuff in criminals, though. It's always just
No, that's a civil case. We
Yeah,
get to
no, yeah,
we get
no,
to make our own verdict sheet. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, we get to decide all the questions.
no,
If
but
yes, go on. If no, stop.
but in this, the way you describe it, if they did do a civil verdict sheet with those kind of findings, it would really steer the discussion. And I mean, it does make more sense in a case like this.
We're giving them too much credit for trying to figure that out on their own. And listen, they're
Yeah.
lay people. They're not lawyers. So
No.
Persephone's pomegranate, if someone can't get past the taillight pieces found on the scene, one could equally argue she could have hit the pole or Higgins' plow. We don't know because law enforcement never investigated, but still reasonable doubt. Yeah, I think Sunday Girl, I agree with you 100%. I think the dog bite or scratches make the accidental death angle improbable. Right. Like if he slipped and fell and hit his head on the fire hydrant,
That's
he fell
true.
backwards and then
arm
was
makes
attacked
more
by a wild raccoon or coyote in the middle of the night. But again, all the MEs testified those dog bites happened before death. Otherwise, they would have been bruised or a different color, right?
That's an important
Like if he was
point.
attacked by like I think they have coyotes in Massachusetts or wild fox
They
or
do, but if those injuries had to come before death, then that really takes out the wild animal.
Mhm.
The wild animals would scavenge after the fact.
Yeah. Thanks, Debbie, for gifting 5 memberships. Mark and Mel, send Lally into the jury room on Monday and have him talk until a verdict is reached.
Well, if you do
Lola.
that, there'll be a verdict in under 4 minutes for
Thanks,
sure.
Lola. That would make so much sense. Or make them stare at the fan on a big screen, like Clockwork Orange.
Well, oh yeah, with the
with the
that
eyes like this. Yeah.
They should rename it the Lally charge instead of the
Thanks,
Allen
Judy.
charge, and the judge should instruct them: if you don't get back to work, we're going to send Lally in there to just talk at you. And
That's right. They have to have some ramifications for their behavior. Mark loves angels. Bev is horrible because she's clueless to how bad she is, but has the arrogance to think she's the best ever. Thanks, so nice. I'm a retired math teacher, educated and found the instructions confusing. Nancy, so did I, and I have a law degree and I've been practicing for 30 years.
And I thought the charge instructions were pretty convoluted.
Oh, good. I feel validated. Thanks, Mark. LK Ryden, maybe the jurors don't want to make the judgment in such a public trial.
Well, that's encouraging to know now after a couple of months and 4 days of deliberations that I don't really want to do this or be here.
Right. Thanks for, I think that's Sweden. Thanks for tuning in from
Sweden. You might want to
Sweden.
tell us when we're picking a jury,
Can a juror tap out?
I mean, if you complain about it and say, I don't want to do this and I'm going crazy, you can
I gotta go.
Force your way out, but then you'd have to start all over.
Something suddenly came up. Something suddenly came up. Stace, I gotta go. Stace, I gotta go. Anybody name that movie? Stace, I gotta go. It is Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yep.
Kimmy, Bev had it out. Mother
Oh
defense.
yeah, that was Mike Damone.
Yeah,
Right.
he was like, Stace, I gotta go. Right? You remember Mike Damone? All right, good. We get the same references. I see you. I see you, Bederow.
Yeah.
Kimmy, Bev had it out. Mother defense and Karen Reed. She's trying to bankrupt Karen Reed. I don't know what that means. There might be a typo in there. Bev had it. Oh, not mother for defense. Bev had it out for the defense and Karen Reed, and she's trying to bankrupt Karen Reed. That's interesting. Thanks, Stephanie, for becoming a member and for gifting 5 memberships. You're so generous. Thank you, Melanie and Mark. By the way, in Canada, trials are not broadcast and jurors can never talk about deliberations. No book deals.
This is the land of opportunity. There'll be many book deals and movie deals and streaming deals when this thing is over.
The American dream, if it's not already happening. Hudson, I hope she sues the hell out of the jurisdiction. I'm pretty sure that'll happen. Was Bev being unethical for not allowing not guilty boxes on the jury slip?
I don't know what that was all
verdict
about.
slip.
I mean, she was wrong. Was it I mean, I don't know. The problem is it's unclear whether she knew which form was in there. And I think initially wasn't the defense more upset with the clerk who just kind of put in the wrong sheet or something?
When they came back in, because you were on trial, so when they came back in to talk about it, she was just like, well, that's the way it's always done in Massachusetts. That's the way we do it here, to Jackson. And he's like, I don't care how you do it, Judge.
Right.
This is not, doesn't make sense. And then she's like, well, Mr. Yannetti, you know that's how we do it here. And he's like, no, actually, no, I haven't. I don't, Judge. I've never seen it. She goes, oh, you've never had a case with lesser included? He's like, actually, I have.
But
And
we
it's
have
not
boxes for not guilty. Yeah,
so
it's
unethical. No, but when she did change her opinion, when she went back and had a little time out and then came back and reversed herself, she said, but I want, she's not a ruling, but she said, but I want, not an admission that the original slip was proper. Like she didn't want to have this come back to bite her. Gigi says, and no one's seeing the body in addition to the arm. How many people plus Lucky? So nobody.
15.
All of them.
I mean, how many people were in that house? 10, 11?
Stephanie. All of them. Everyone. If Chloe got out of backyard, came around, attacked John, he fell, hit his head. Brian Albert found him and drug him into the yard, scared he'd be sued and lose everything possible, says Sandy B. I mean, look, they were going to blame it on Lucky because they knew Lucky was their plow driver for 100 years. They knew him since elementary school. And they knew he probably couldn't. They would either be ruled an accident or that he wouldn't be able to defend himself. I don't know. Sandra,
Yeah.
can Karen still sue or bring a civil case if this is a hung jury? Yes. If so, can they get more discovery that wasn't allowed? Oh, you can get a lot more discovery. In a civil case, you can get depositions and you can call all those people to come in and give depositions. You can subpoena every single one of them.
You
So
could
you'd
try
cer-
to, Morrissey and Lally to be
Yep.
deposed in a civil case. That would
That's-
be interesting.
Yeah. And all everyone who was in that house, you can get them all. You can get so much more discovery in a civil case than in a criminal case that it's crazy. So in a civil case, you know what people are going to say because you've already done the deposition. In a criminal case, you have no idea what they're going to say.
I like
Chuck-
the lucky was the fall guy theory that somebody wrote, because then it would also be an accident, and it wouldn't even be anybody getting in trouble. It's just like the poor plow guy just rolled over this guy. He didn't see him. He fell. He was drunk, and he got plowed up.
And that could explain the marks on the arm theoretically in there,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But it was pretty stupid of them to go with Karen as the the patsy.
Yep.
Trucker's tale. If that's what happened, because maybe he did slip and hit his head on the fire hydrant and got attacked by wolves. We don't know. But before he died, the wolves attacked him, and then he died after, which would
Right.
explain the timing of the wounds. I mean, that's possible. A Trucker's tale. Megadeth's Kick the Chair and Metallica's and Justice for All to the playlist. Justice is lost. Justice is rigged. Justice is done. Pulling your strings. Justice is done. Seeing the truth. Winnings. It's also grim, so true, so real. Thank you, Trucker's tale. So very much. Dreamer thinker. How much does the actual courthouse impact your approach as lawyers? This is such an unusual shoebox. I mean, the layout of the actual room.
I mean, it's pretty suffocating in there. It's tiny.
Yeah. And
But
yeah,
there-
you have to like a bigger room. You're playing to a bigger stage. I mean, you're a performer when you're a trial lawyer, right? You're performing for a jury. Everything is choreographed really. And so the size of the room would affect the way you're trying your case, right?
They can't walk around like when they're arguing to the jury. I mean, some people like to move around. It's just, but you're kind of stuck with the podium because the room is so small. There's nowhere to walk.
What do you do? Do you stick at the podium or do you walk around?
I like to move around a little
Do you
bit.
lean right on the jury box like you do on Law and Order and just like
I like
talk to the
sometimes
jury?
maybe to the side of the podium, and then depending on if you're making a key point, body language, inflection, modulation,
Sure.
that kind of stuff. I think it's probably hard for someone like Jackson, even though he's so good at it, to be kind of wedded to a podium. I would guess that's not his style preference, to be
Right.
literally stuck behind a podium. I mean, when you communicate as effectively as he does, I would imagine he would like a little freedom to move around a little. That's just a guess, but I've never seen him any clips of anything else, but I would imagine it's
Yeah, he's
not.
all boxed in, like nobody
Yeah.
likes that.
Nelly, I think, is very comfortable with the white knuckle podium.
Oh, he'd prefer to just sit at his right in front of the judge and just look up like, mommy,
Yeah.
help me, mommy.
What a weird setup too, right? How his table is literally under the judge like that.
It's almost like an extension of the bench. So it makes it feel like the prosecution and the judge are one. Like it's weird.
And the federal style seating is surprising, with the
Mhm.
front and back instead of side by side. I hate that.
Right. Right. And even like the smallest courtrooms in like Nassau Supreme, for example, are very, very big old courtrooms, and your tables are next to each other and you have a lot of room and there's a lot of seating, even in the small rooms upstairs.
And I was telling you when we were out there that I felt like the Dedham courthouse, it felt like Nassau County Supreme
Mhm.
Court. in Mineola. It had that same old. It also had that kind of like stale, moldy smell from like bad ventilation and like
Musty.
yes, you know what I'm talking about.
Musty. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm picking up
It's
what you're laying down.
it's not a healthy courthouse to probably be in every day. It's just that
Like asbestos, maybe.
yeah, it's just
Asbestos floating around. Is that why my throat has been ever since?
it smells like
Um,
moldy air conditioning in there. It's just awful.
Here's crazy old guy's theory. Lucky was the original scapegoat, but the snow didn't cooperate, and Karen showed the cracked tail light.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, there wasn't that much snow in the beginning, which means how could they not see him at 12:30 if he was on the lawn? I mean, it's
Yeah. Adrian says that my theory is the dog attacked him and he slipped on the ice and then the cover up. I mean, yeah, like if he went into the backyard to take a leak and the dog was out there and the dog attacked him because he held up his arm to protect himself and he fell back and smacked his head on the concrete around the pool.
and why not
And they
just
found him dead later and they could have,
why not just call the police?
because they were all hammered, because maybe there were some other substances in there. Who knows? I don't know. You're right. But why? They are the police, right?
I mean, why go into this crazy panic cover up and Hoslong to die in the cold and all that?
Correct. But yeah, but we're not accusing anyone of anything. But you're right, Adrian. That's absolutely could have happened.
Right,
I
that's
mean,
as good a theory as any.
it is. I mean, it's definitely possible. Wouldn't the holdouts see that it is not proven by a reasonable doubt if the others are not guilty? No, Phoebe, not necessarily.
Knows you don't know.
Some people are very, very set on their. Oh, look, Jeff Spicoli's coming in.
Oh,
Jeff Spicoli coming in.
I'm just here
Says,
to
I gotta go.
have some food and learn about Cuba, right? With
Orders the pizza to the classroom. Such a classic.
right, Mr. Hands,
I
right?
know that my audience skews 45 plus. 75% of the audience here is 45 plus, which is why I get such good brand deals, because everyone wants that demographic, right? But the younger kids, if you have not watched Fast Times at Ridgemont High, go watch it. It's a classic. Jeff says it was on a clear-cut fentanyl. I was on a clear-cut fentanyl trafficking case in Fall River. Do you have a Fall River accent, Jeff? And we had one nut saying, I know he did it, but I feel bad if I vote to convict, he might lose his job. Look, like you never know what's going on in the jury room.
Which job is that he was going to lose? His fentanyl trafficking job? I mean,
I don't know. Maybe he had a different, maybe he was like worked in a hospital or something. And he was, who knows, like Breaking Bad. I don't know. All right. We've been here for an hour and a half. Is there any place where our audience can go find you? I have linked in the description. I linked it in the morning stream, your website and your Twitter handle at Bederow Law, so that if people need you to defend them in any criminal matters in the 5 boroughs, Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, Staten Island, maybe, and New Jersey.
And beyond.
And beyond.
I've gone to Albany,
infinity and beyond.
Island, to infinity and beyond.
We're Toy Story.
Somebody once tried to hire me to go up to, what is it, Franklin County, where, up by Dannemora and all that, like on the Canadian border. That's a little far. But,
Or Onondaga? Will you?
Onondaga is Syracuse. I went to law school there. So, yeah. No,
you did? Did you go to Syracuse?
I did.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you. Oh, sheesh. I keep thinking we're done and people keep popping in. Thank you so much for your generosity, everyone. We're gonna buy Mark and his wife dinner tonight. Hudson, I was in veterinary medicine for over 25 years, was an EMT and did Schutzend. My dad was an MP. No question, those were dog bite wounds while that man was alive.
That who are, either nurses or nurse practitioners, vets. A lot of people seem to see that.
Mm-hmm. How long to die in cold? The guy is still out there moaning. Yeah, that's a scary thing. Crazy old guy.
Could be.
Lola, in movie, George Clooney to play attorney Mark Bederow, Paul Giamatti to play Lally. I'll allow it. I'll allow it. Just be glad they don't.
He's good. He's just, I mean,
Did you watch Billions? Because he just rubbed me the wrong way, and I don't know.
I love Billions, although it kind of the last couple seasons veered off, and when they lost, Axe for a year or two, it wasn't as good. But
yes, I did like Axe too. But
character.
I also did like that other guy. Who was the other guy? The really tall, bald guy?
Michael Prince was his name.
Yeah.
I forget it. His name is Corey Stoll.
He's a tall drink of water, that guy. All right. That's cool. If Michelle Pfeiffer plays May, I'll take it. Kathy, 5 people were just charged in Minnesota for trying to bribe a juror, left a bag with $110,000 cash on the juror's doorstep.
That's a very sophisticated way to do it.
That is, and we have to talk about that case after. Thank you, Kathy. Trucker's Tale. My 13-year-old daughter, Autumn, wants to be a lawyer and has watched this whole trial with me. She says it should have been a quick not guilty. Can she get a shout out? Autumn, what an awesome, first of all, what an awesome name, Trucker's Tale. Autumn, reach for the stars, girl. You got this. You can be whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. Girls can do it too. They can. Short story, when I was in the early 90s, when I first became a lawyer, there were not a lot of women lawyers. And really out here, it still is the old boys club to a large extent. And so I started at my own firm with a partner before I was 30, and it had my name on it. And everyone was like, oh, is that your daddy's law firm? Well, that would be the first thing that they would say. And then the next thing they would say when I would walk in to do a deposition or into a courtroom is they would look at me, these older gentlemen usually, and would say, oh, honey, you could set up in the corner. Because they thought I was the court reporter because I was a woman. And I would say, hey, it's the 90s. Women can be lawyers too. And Autumn, you can do it. Just keep studying and keep reading. Do the crossword puzzle. Any advice for Autumn, Mark?
Trial watching at age 13, that's impressive. And, you know, you can watch a trial like this and emulate certain people and probably see that there are ways not to do things effectively as well. So you
That's
can
right.
learn from both, and hopefully you'll get to watch other trials that are a little more traditional. This thing is anything but.
And if there's any mock trial clubs in your high school, when you go to high school, do that. Do acting classes, take improv, because all of those skills, if you want to be a trial lawyer and you want to get up and perform for a jury and write your own script, because I always wanted to be an actor. And then I decided it was going to be easier to go to law school because I could still use all my skills. I could write my own script. I'd have an audience and a jury, and nobody could tell me I couldn't get the part, that I didn't get the part. You could do it, girl.
True.
Auntie Deb should name the dog Patsy in parody, says Laura. Blessed Mom, Mel, us on Cash App for Mark and wife's dinner. Oh, love you all together. Oh, Blessed Mom, you don't have to do that. I'll take care of them. Melissa, dog attack theory and fall with head trauma. Got Murdoch millions. Oh, that's right. The housekeeper fell down the stairs because the dog tripped her. And then he sent the case to his buddy. And then the housekeeper sued him. And then they paid millions and they stole the money. That's right.
You almost have to give them some credit to even. Crazy.
That's great. Nicole Kidman should play me, says Crystal. Well, thank you. I'll take that one too. But proper video. Thank you so much for the two. Before anyone sends any more super chats, and I have to keep you here for another hour. Are you appearing anywhere tonight? Do you have any appearances where people can find you tonight?
6:30 with the Young Jerks guys. They want to talk about this. So
all right. Tell them if they want me to come, I'll join you. If you're out of. Yeah, of course I will.
I'm gonna tell them that.
He knows how to reach me. I gave him my email, and then he sends me a message on Instagram that gets lost in a black hole. But yeah, sure. Let him know. He knows how to reach me. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone, to my moderators for keeping it classy, and to all of you for watching us, because without you, thanks, Christy, for jumping in there. We don't have anybody to talk to. My kids won't talk to me about this case. They're like, they go on their phone to look at YouTube literally to see if they can bother me or not if I'm live, because I've been live pretty much every day and every hour since this case started. But thank you so much for coming to join me today.
Having us.
And thanks to the moderators for keeping it classy. And like I always say, be cool, be kind, be classy, you guys. Hit the like button on your way out, please. There are 7,500 of you left. You hung out with us for an hour and 45 minutes. We love you. Peace.
See ya.